Professionals who work in, manage, or have responsibility for the accounts payable function have to handle many different tasks. The many roles of the AP professionals, as told through cartoons, right here, take a playful but serious look at the many different hats these professionals have to wear if they want to do an even adequate, never mind outstanding job for their organizations. Continued learning is also part of that equation. We're going to take a quick look at some of the roles that AP professionals wear today using some of the cartoons that were created for our 127 Best Practices AP book, as well as our recent AP Appreciation Week celebration. Hi, guys. I'm Mary Schaefer, founder of AP Now. This is our tribute to the hardworking professionals who manage or have responsibility for the accounts payable and or payment function. Let's take a look at some of the different roles. And let's start off with the AP Juggler. The professional who is involved with accounts payable has to handle a lot of different tasks, be knowledgeable about them, etc. Just to give you a rough idea, here are some of the issues that they are faced with on a day-to-day basis. Invoice processing, which that you kind of expected, probably vendor files, and they, by the way, they have to know about best practices and internal controls related to all of these, as well as the most current information. 1099s, if they're making international payments, 1042s, they need to know about all the different payment mechanisms, checks, cards, ACH, wire transfers, and all the new payment innovations. Many of you are still dealing with a petty cash box. It pains me, but we have to include that. They have to deal with expense reporting and employees turning in questionable expense reports. They need to know about sales and use tax, unclaimed property, hopefully the latest information about fraud and fraud detection. They have to deal with vendors, and hopefully they're skilled at vendor relations, and along the same lines as that, staff management, staff technology, and more. These are just the tip of the iceberg, just to give you a rough idea of all the different balls they have to keep in the air, so to speak. Next, we're going to move on and we're going to talk about accounts payable as the technology whiz. There's lots of new technology coming, not only at accounts payable, but accounting and all professionals. I'm starting here with one of my favorite examples, the Zoom call, which, today we're all readily adept at. My first Zoom call, which was probably maybe, 6, 7 years ago, long before COVID, I didn't even realize that there was a visual component to it. And I got on and the audio was working fine, and I could see on my screen, the guy there was looking like, where is she? I can hear her, but I can't see her. That's because I had my little clicky thing down, so you couldn't see through my screen. I wasn't about to A, admit I didn't know what I was doing, and B, put the screen up because I was sitting there in jeans and a sweatshirt. My next Zoom call, and this was a homage to it, was a few years later. Now I knew that there was a visual component, was with Jamie Radford and Gareth Jones in the UK. And I managed to get myself on there upside down. And as I struggled to right myself up, the two of them were laughing. They thought it was hysterical. My head was bouncing around upside down. So when I told the cartoonist, he decided to make them upside down, which I really, really appreciated. Okay, and today, by the way, I know how to make a Zoom call, but just one example of the many different types of new technology that's being thrown at all of us, everybody in the business world. Okay, the next hat that we see our folks in AP having to wear is that of the AP Spreadsheet Experts. Now, some complain that all accounting, not just accounts payable professionals, rely too heavily on spreadsheets. Whether they're right or wrong, that's a discussion for another time. But what I can tell you is that we use Excel a lot in accounts payable. And accounts payable professionals have become quite adept at using it and learning more. And to be fair, in response to all those who complain about too much use of Excel, some of the stuff that you can do in Excel is pretty nifty. They have some pretty complicated and advanced features in there. So today, on top of everything else, it's expected that if you work in accounts payable or any place in accounting, to be honest, is that you have some decent knowledge of Excel and how to use it and how to get the most out of it. Along the same lines, but taking a further step up, is the role of the accounts payable data scientist. As automation frees up time in accounts payable, there are more resources that can be used for other accounts payable tasks. Now, of course, some of this time is now being spent on verifying all the crazy frauds, change my bank account, here's a rush wire transfer, etc. But there is hopefully some time that the professionals who are working in accounts payable can spend on mining all that data that is there in the accounts payable system. They can mine it, they can get the insights, they can share it with other departments so that the company can get the most out of this hidden wealth, if you will, this hidden resource. And oftentimes, accounts payable is the help for this. And one of our members, recently shared that when the CFO needs data, he doesn't go to the budget guys, he doesn't go to the accounting guys, he comes to AP because, they have the numbers, they know exactly what was spent. So we're seeing more and more of this management coming to rely on accounts payable, for the actual spend data. Now, before we get to what some might say is the most important role of accounts payable today, I'd like to thank a few of the folks who contributed to this session, although I'm pretty sure they don't realize that. Walter Moore, a big thank you. He drew all these wonderful cartoons. And Tom Flynn, a special thanks because he inspired this idea with a remark about AP juggling and the many tasks and wearing of many hats by the accounts payable professional. A comment, by the way, he's probably regretting because I then talked him into showing our audience how to juggle. If you watched that video, and there's a link in the show notes below if you didn't, please make sure you tell him how much you enjoyed it because he's still wringing his hands that I talked him into this. And of course, you, the audience, for your continued support through likes, comments, shares, and subscribes. And now to another new role, a new hat, if you will, that accounts payable has to wear. And, this is kind of a sad one, but AP is now in the position of wearing the hat of becoming the company's fraud protector. Sadly, criminals have figured out that AP is where to go if you want to try and get your hands on a company's money. And they've been targeting AP first. Statistics from the Association of Financial Professionals show that with the BEC frauds, AP is targeted 61% of the time. That's followed by Treasury, who's followed 14% of the time. That just goes to show how smart the criminals are. They figured out where the money is, etc. So AP's new role, if you will, is to find out about the new frauds and then make sure the organization is protected, change whatever processes need to be changed in order to make sure that the company doesn't fall for the fraud, send money where it shouldn't go, or give data to someone who shouldn't get it. But their other role is to alert everyone. I like to say that when it comes to fraud, education is the silver bullet. If you can alert people that a particular fraud is going on, then they may recognize it when it comes down the pike and it hits them. So just education. So as soon as AP finds out about a fraud, its mission should be to alert everyone. Don't wait for the end of the month staff meeting. As soon as you find out, they're alerting everyone so the organization doesn't get hurt. So as I've alluded to, life in AP is full of many different responsibilities. You really do need to know a lot about a lot of different topics if you work in, manage, or have responsibility for the accounts payable function. We recently did a session on that, as well as one entitled A Day in the Life of AP. You can watch one or both of them right now using a link that will appear momentarily on your YouTube screen and is in the show notes below. As always, we appreciate your thumbs up, your comments, your shares, and your subscribes. Good luck.